Good evening, everybody. Welcome.
Good.
Myself, Dr. Jayanta Gaur, convener and moderator of this international symposium. On behalf of Bharati Vidya Charcha Kendra and our collaborating organization, Purvasha Eco Helpline Society, would like to thank our participants from different states of India, from north to south and from east to west. I heartily thank our participants from the USA, Canada, Ireland, France, China, and Bangladesh to be with us in this hour of international need. Bharata Vidya Charcha Kendra, an interdisciplinary non-government organization, was set up in the year 2000 by late Professor Bhaskar Chattopadhyay of Department of History, the University of Bardhaman. He is engaged in the task of organizing seminars, workshops, annual conferences, and publishing journals and books for the welfare of students, scholars, teachers, and academicians from different sectors. Our collaborating organization, Purvasha Eco Helpline, is a non-government organization which starts its journey from May 2009, just after ILA. It conducts many environmental awareness programs, workshops, seminars, and is engaged in social works, particularly in the remote areas of Indian Sundarbans. Dear participants and viewers from across the world, we all know that we are really surpassing helplessly through a very critical and undesirable outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, which is forcing mankind to be restricted within their definite arena. School, college, university education systems all over the world have tremendously been affected by this long-run shutdown of educational institutions and lockdown and social distancing since last few months. To have a ground level discussion on this burning issue, we are lucky enough to get some of our international think tanks in our symposium. We have tried to keep our potential resource persons from both Eastern and Western world, as well as from most developed countries like the USA and from developing countries like China and India. We are trying also to reduce the increasing technical issues and depressions of the students and teaching community due to the imposed online education systems. And we have also tried to find out the common problems in the developed as well as in developing nations of the world. As a common citizen or as an academician, we must think for a while how to bring hope among the future generation students and teachers to continue our education system in a more depression-less, joyful way so that we can prepare ourselves for any type of pandemic situation in near future. Without delaying so much, I would like to introduce now our honorable speakers. Let me introduce our first speaker, Professor Suparno Banerjee from USA, one of the most developed nations of the Western world. Professor Suparno has done his PhD in English literature from Louisiana State University and worked in the same university as a graduate teaching assistant from 2005 to 2010. He has been an assistant and associate professor in English in Texas State University, USA since 2010 till date. He has illuminated the academic world with his works and has been awarded for excellence in teaching in College of Liberal Arts in 2014 and nominated for the Presidential Award twice for excellence in teaching from the Department of English in 2013 and 2015 in USA. We will also try to know from him how one of the most developed countries like the USA is managing their education system during this pandemic situation. Welcome, sir. Feeling very proud for your kind presence in our symposium. To the next, our second speaker is Shankar Mandal. Welcome, Mr. Shankar Mandal, the mangrove man, the son of the soil of Sundarbans and also an assistant teacher, the founder of Purvasha Eco Helpline. He is one of the heroes of Sundarbans who devoted his entire life in serving the poor and helpless people of Sundarbans during Aila, Fani, Amphan. Under his supervision, 4 lakh mangrove plants have been planted in different remote and inaccessible areas of Sundarbans. His organization works day and night for the welfare of the poor and needy students of Sundarbans when hundreds of people were fighting for their survival during the severe cyclones, floods, and lockdown. Mr. Mandal extended his hands to those helpless and needy students of Indian Sundarbans. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We will share his experience regarding this imposed online education system in schools during this pandemic situation in remote areas of India. To the next, Our third speaker is Mr. Shubham Pal. Welcome you, sir. Shubham is one of the most famous journalists, documentary filmmaker, author, raconteur, sojourner, knowledge nomad, and whatnot. Worked in 3 BRICS countries, India, South Africa, China, so far. Even Russian embassy welcomes him without a tourist visa for his noble works. As an intrepid traveler, he crisscrossed many territories and countries of Europe and Asia, Australia, South Africa, and destinations such as Mount Everest North Base Camp in Tibet, China, the Great Barrier Reef and Uluru Ayers Rock in Australia, Gobi Desert in Mongolia, Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, and Kruger National Park in South Africa. Being an international journalist, Shubham plays a pivotal role in the integration of an ancient cultural bond between China and India. Noted as writer, Shubham wrote on the biography of Sachin Tendulkar and World Quiz and wrote 4 books for HarperCollins. We'll hear from him how China, the epicenter of this pandemic, has managed their education system. We are fortunate that we got such an international personality like you, sir. To the next, our fourth potential speaker is Professor Malay Mukhopadhyay. Professor Malay Mukhopadhyay, professor and former head Department of Geography, Vishwa Bharati, teaching since last 32 years, supervised 19 PhD scholars for their doctoral degree, a geographer with immense passion on river who is accepted worldwide to install marker stones at the source of river Ajay, Kopai, Kunur, Karola, and Kumari. Being a senior professor, he has taken out time for several creations, which include exploratory books on subject-oriented topics, applauding short stories, poems, and novels. Passionately, he spent days with tribal communities like Ongi, Kani, Santal, Apatani, and is well known for trekking along the rivers of India like Tarafeni in 1979, Kopai in 1991, and again in 2017, Ajay in 1995, Mayurakshi in 2000, and River Thames of England in 2012. We will share his experience and philosophical views on how relevant this imposed online education system is to our universities and how the universities and colleges in India are managing their education systems during this pandemic. Now, our think tanks will share their views for 15 to 20 minutes during this session, and at the end of each speech, 5 minutes is allotted for discussions. Before starting this session, I would like to request our dear participants across the world to give your views and suggestions through text responses in this YouTube live streaming program, as your valuable topic-related suggestions also matter to us to reduce the vulnerability in our present education systems during this COVID-19 pandemic. If you want to ask any relevant questions on this issue to the speakers, we request you to type it in the comment box below. Due to time constraints, we are bound to select only 2 to 3 relevant questions for each speaker during this session. So pardon us. Now, I am inviting Professor Suparna Banerjee to give his valuable speech. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Gore. And I am also honored and very happy to join today's discussion, which hopefully will be beneficial for everybody. So I will be talking about the imposed online education situation in the US, and I'll share a PowerPoint slideshow, which hopefully will be helpful during the talk. So let me just share this quickly, and then we'll proceed. So I'll be talking about the online education US during the COVID pandemic from the position of an educator who is currently involved in the situation, not as an expert on education policies. Okay, but when Dr. Gore asked me to talk about it, his point was mainly to explain how people who are directly involved in these situations, and to bring forward their own perceptions, etc., etc. So, as he mentioned, I am involved in higher education sector in the US, which has taken a huge hit during the pandemic. And um, it's not only the higher education sector which is affected, but also K through 12, which is kindergarten through high school, which have taken a huge, um, it's a huge problem for everybody. So I'll be talking about both of them, but primarily my concern is higher education, with which I'm directly involved. As of yesterday, US has the highest number of COVID cases, which stands just short of 5 million, and the highest number of deaths, which is around more than 160,000 people, according to Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Research Center. And the pandemic is still surging. I am in the state of Texas, which is one of the hot spots in the country. There are other places like Florida, California, where the outbreak is even worse, but Texas also has suffered a lot. And when you put that together with the role that US plays in international education, things starts becoming um, clearer why this is such a big issue. So United States has the second largest number of universities in the world and has the most number of top 100 ranked universities and plays host to the largest number of international students in the world, by which I mean people come to study in the US from all over the world. Uh, so when we look at the American education system, it is the case in most places in the world. It's not unique in the US, but the problem gets magnified. Now, one other thing I'd like to touch upon before getting into the situation that COVID-19 created is how online education was used or looked at even before the COVID-19 started. So it's not completely new thing in the US. It has been gaining ground for several years. I would say at least from the last 10 years, online education has become a pretty important part of higher education system. But it was never the primary mode of education. Um, it was mostly a supplement to traditional face-to-face education, that is in-class education. And in mostly the non-primary degrees, by which I mean vocational degrees or an add-on thing. So there has been a growing demand of alternative online delivery of courses, specifically for people who require flexibilities in their learning schedules and things like that. So it has been growing. It's not something completely new. And hence, technologically, I would say developed nations like United States were probably a little more prepared, but I'm saying a little more because it was never supposed to be a completely single source of education, which has completely changed since March. From the second week of March, mostly all over US, this became online education became the primary mode which could be utilized to deliver educational contents to the students. When you take a look at the differences between the two modes, the problems of online education as well as the benefits will become clear in this specifically this kind of scenario. So whatever I'm talking about, keeping in mind is the unique situation that we are going through now. But I also want to point out that my comments are primarily limited to the American context. There are similarities all over the world, mostly in the industrialized nations of the world. like in Europe or North America, or even in East Asia. Um, but still, it's primarily applicable to US. So if you look at the two modes of education, face-to-face is generally synchronous, as in we are present at the same time. By we, I mean the educator or teacher and the students, they're present at the same time and the same place, and the interactions happen in real time. That is, I'm talking, my students are listening, we are participating, we gesture, we interact a lot more freely. And as teachers, again, I have not been a student in an online classroom, so my student perception is limited from my interaction with students, which I do have some because I did ask for their feedback. And before I go in, let me just put forward one other information. So universities shut down, schools shut down more or less around the middle of March 2020. I was teaching 3 courses at the university level at that time, so all of them went online. I again taught during the summer, which was completely online, 2 courses. So by this time, I have taught 5 courses online. But that my preference is not teaching online. I prefer to teach face-to-face. So those 5 courses were imposed. That's why I sought feedback from my students. I'll be teaching 3 more classes in fall, which is just beginning towards the end of August. And I chose to teach online. So I'm just putting this scenario in front of you to proceed into the next section of my talk. So I don't prefer online teaching. I was given an option of teaching face-to-face classes in the coming 4 months. So a semester starts from August, it will end in December, then the next semester starts. And I chose to teach online. So you can see that there is contradiction in what I want and what I'm doing. And that has been the case in the US scenario. So face-to-face, as I was discussing, is more direct. We are present, and the teachers spend most time inside classroom. Obviously, we have to prepare, but not make things as meticulous as when you're online. If you look at the right-hand side of my slide, the faculty time investment, that is the teacher's investment, is designing and facilitating learning experience through technology. So we spend more time curating courses, basically creating websites of courses, complete websites of courses. When you go online to any other, let's say, the British Museum or the Ministry of External Affairs or any online website, you have sources, you have information, they're organized. That's how you can find, or even Wikipedia pages, if you think about it. You go there to find information. When we are creating online courses, most of me and most of my colleagues, we are basically creating a version of that, a lesser version of that, because it's almost impossible to do that within a short amount of time. But that's probably the way of delivering information to students who may or may not be present all the time. And by that, I mean online education is more flexible. Okay. If you think about face-to-face education, students have to be in class, regular attendance, etc. Whereas students in online education classes, they have to self-regulate, they have to self-motivate, they have to look at the information, study on their own. Less amount of time spent with the teacher guiding them. So that's why teachers have to be more careful creating the content, presenting the information to them. But on the other hand, if you look at it, students have the flexibility to engage with the material. So they don't have to be there. Sometimes online courses are synchronous, like what we're doing now is synchronous. We are talking, the viewers are listening. So we do those things in online classes as well, but it's a mixed component. Online classes are completely technology dependent. So if you think about it, teachers have to learn, students have to learn the technology. So it's not only the matter of expertise in the topic. So I'm an English professor. So when I'm teaching online classes, it's not only the matter of me knowing my literature or language content, but I have to be an expert on how to operate the systems like Zoom, Canvas, StreamYard, Microsoft Teams, all of those things. So it's a double sort of uh, double labor. So is evaluation. So this what I'm talking about, it's applicable to online education in general, but if you put together it with the COVID-19 scenario, it's as important. So that's why I'm spending some time on it. Um, and for the students too, it becomes a specific kind of situation in which they have to be directly present in class, but sometimes they can also be flexible, they can work, um, which is important. So we'll talk about those things a little bit, but those were the main ways that online education differs from face-to-face education. Now, before we go to the next phase of my discussion, I would like to point out that in the US, even when we are doing face-to-face education, there is always a little bit of an online component, in the sense that after we're done in the classroom, it's just true. I guess it's true for most other places now. Um, I know in India, WhatsApp or other messaging phone systems are utilized to communicate between teachers and students. But this thing is a little bit more elaborate. We always have a course management system, a program through which teachers and students communicate. We put materials online so that students can access, etc., etc. So if I'm teaching a class, I will be putting this slide that I'm using today in online mode, so students would be able to access. So in a sense, if K through 12, that is high school, and from kindergarten to high school, they also do those things. And obviously, everywhere there is homework, so those are non-synchronous. So US was, I would say, a little more prepared to turn to online because their systems were already existent. So it's not completely unheard of. But when you look at the effect of COVID on US education system, you can see I have some information here. This Dr. Martel looked at the situation in spring. 96% of the universities canceled face-to-face classes and moved online. Over American Schools and Universities Journal mentioned that 124,000 schools closed campuses in March. And schools are just opening at this moment. So things have not started completely. Summer was online. So you can see the magnitude of the shift to online and that number of people affected. Many schools are still persisting, and the fall openings are completely chaotic. And I say this because there's not a coherent response at this moment. Many schools have, and there are, so the people who prefer online classes, they have their logic. Face-to-face classes, they have their own logic. So it's not like that one group is completely irrational, the other group is rational. There are benefits and problems on both sides. Some universities are implementing mixed methods. My university are implementing mixed method in the sense that anybody who wants to go online can go online, who wants to participate in face-to-face can do that. But most people are moving online in my university. And you can see like US government is preferring to go face-to-face classes because there are several problems which we'll talk about in a minute or two. Whereas the faculty and teachers organizations are mostly opposed to reopening face-to-face classes. So if you look at the problems of online education, it will become clear why that is the scenario. According to Brookings Institution, learning retention suffers a lot for younger children if we don't have face-to-face classes. And that's what's happening in the US right now. Sometime I'll just show you this chart or graph rather. So this portion shows the knowledge loss in mathematics and reading. They have other subjects as well, but just want to show you. So this is when the school closed this year. This is typically the last day of closing, and this shows the sliding of knowledge. So this is retention, this is loss of knowledge, but this is the projected loss of knowledge for people due to extended closing and possibly moving online. So this is a problem. But there are other things not only directly involved with education and retention. Sometimes students lack proper home environment to continue their education. There's food insecurity, like in India, high schools or K to school system plays a major role in providing food for students and mental health services. So all of these are suffering, and specifically in the lower income groups who do not have access to technology as much as the other groups. So it's a problem. Definitely, it's a huge problem, because if you don't have technology, you are falling behind. I think I should probably move a little faster. And then there's a psychological problem: anxiety, isolation, depression. All of these are real issues. I guess all of these are real issues everywhere in the world. So it will be an issue. This will be an issue. And these affect students and teachers and parents, all of them. There's one other issue that I wanted to mention quickly. It's a chaotic immigration policy regarding the COVID and international students, which has created a huge problem in the sense that international students were not originally allowed to take online classes. They were allowed, but only a small number of classes towards their degree. The immigration department generously reversed that or suspended that policy during the pandemic. So students were fine, but this month they suddenly reversed and said that if you're not taking face-to-face classes, you have to leave the country, which creates international travel, deportation threats, etc. A lot of these things became problem, but then they again backtracked and said, no, we're not going to do that. So this again is an added problem for international students during this time. And as I mentioned, US has probably the largest number of international students in the world. So that's another problem of online education. And so these are many things. So I'll just move on to the other side. So I spend a lot of time pointing out the problems, but if you look at it at this moment, I think it's probably the safest. There's no perfect solution, but this is probably the safest mode of education because it's the only way of maintaining physical distancing in a classroom. I was supposed to teach a class which had 200 students, and there are masks policies, there are large classrooms, but how can I impose a mask policy on everyone in a class of 200? It's almost impossible. The same situation goes for high schools and every places, and even some states don't require students or people to wear masks. They suggest that they do, but there's no way of enforcing that. So there's always a chance of contraction. I just came across one of the examples. So summer camps are camps where school-age children go during summer for various kinds of life lessons. And this is just one scenario. There are others, but there are other scenarios where these things didn't happen. Where 260 cases of COVID-19 cropped up suddenly. Now, so what I'm suggesting is that, or what I'm seeing, not necessarily suggesting, that if you are not in a place where a large number of people have gathered, obviously there's less chance of contraction. The other point that I was hinting at earlier, that US has a much better technological infrastructure, so online education is still practicable. Let me just highlight, I'm not saying that this is ideal. What I'm saying is this is practical. You can do it. And um, it actually has other benefits, like for higher education, a lot of people lost their jobs, and our students, um, they work, they earn their living, and then they earn almost everybody, and they lost their jobs. There's a huge economic problem of due to loss of jobs and other things. So if you have an online class, it provides the students flexibility to work and learn, which is not necessarily the case if they have to come to class at a specific time. So that's a thing. I mentioned this because I have encountered this problem with my students who, because we went online, they could do their jobs. We lost a lot of students during this forced closure, but I did manage to convince some people to stay on, giving them leeways, giving them flexible hours of attending classes, etc., etc. And again, people will suffer, but we can possibly mitigate this to some extent by providing them the technology and providing the faculty training how to function online. Most people don't know how to do that. I know my daughter would not go to school, face-to-face school this year. She will learn online, and her school district, they're trying to reach out to lower income group students and trying to provide them with the technology. Teachers shut down school, but teacher kept on providing the meals. People will come in cars and they will hand over their food. They learn online, but they will do that. So even if we move online, despite the problems, there are probably ways with which we can do these things. So if we go away from the grim pictures that I've been saying, that's why I call this is a dystopian situation, which is a place which is very bad. Um, these these are the benefits of online education. And if you move away from these grim outlooks, what I've noticed is that international research collaboration has increased a lot. Um, to go back to my primary point of the problems and benefits, you can probably tell that I'm not satisfied with online education, but under the current scenario, I think it's probably the only safe mode in many areas of US. Not every part of the country is affected equally, so it cannot be the same everywhere. So we have to keep that in mind. But in those parts of the country which are affected, it's probably wiser to go online at this moment. It will affect students' learning. It will affect many group of people negatively. In many cases, the parents, teachers, students, everybody. But there's no perfect solution. What I think, looking at the current scenario, probably if we can save at this moment, we can do other things to bring up the learning. In a sense, if we live today, we can work tomorrow. That sort of scenario. Again, it's very green. It's dark in the sense that whatever you do, there is some sort of problem in some group of people. But possibly online education is the safest one at this moment. So I'll stop here and hand it back to the convener. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Suparno. We are very much thankful to you for your suggestions and for your perception on this issue. And I would like to ask you one thing, that what steps are being taken by developed nations like the USA to develop the mental health of the students and to reduce the mental depressions of both students and teachers during this pandemic situation who are not so acquainted with the online systems? If you focus on this, sir.
That's a very, very good question, because the mental health issue, as I suggested, is a major problem. If you think about it, people are isolated. They're completely cut off from people, which leads to, and I think that's the situation everywhere. Now, in the US, mental health is generally taken seriously, a lot more seriously, maybe than some other places. Maybe. Again, I can't comment on other places, so I should not. But I can say that every university has mental health counseling services and all those things, and they are functioning. So it's not like that they're not trying to do it. I just looked at my our university's mental health counseling. I'll just quickly show you their web page. I probably can't, because it's the same window. Anyway, so they continue to function. They're offering psychiatry services online through Zoom meetings. So you can see the irony here. You have to utilize online counseling services to get out of your depression and all those things. But as I say, that medicine has moved to online, telemedicine and things like that. Even in India, I know my parents are consulting their doctors over phone, WhatsApp, and other video services. So it's the same here, but they are also doing face-to-face appointments, not like they're not doing it. And many universities are doing the same thing. So there is an infrastructure trying to help students, faculty, but I'm not so much aware about the K through 12, that is kindergarten to high school scenario, what they're doing. But I know teachers play a major role in student health. They counsel people, they advise students, they keep them on track. So they are often creating videos, posting videos, trying to communicate with students. The teachers are working a lot, trying to mitigate these scenarios. And in some cases, they are creating drive-by processions. So teachers from one school will get into their cars and drive by the neighborhood's houses in cars, so that their students can see them, that their teachers care for them, to cheer students up. I can't hear. I think you have to unmute.
Professor Soumitra Rai, another participant from our symposium, there is a question for Dr. Banerjee. Is it possible that when classroom teaching does resume, will the new normal be a mix of face-to-face teaching and online teaching, keeping in mind of mind health issues? If you please.
That's a very pertinent question. That is something that's being asked, and nobody really has a clear answer. But I guess you're right, because as I was mentioning, our school, our university will open, and there is this discussion of having some classes online, some classes face-to-face, and in some cases, a portion of the class online, and the students who don't want to come to class, they would attend online. And the students who want to come will have face-to-face classes. And that's why they're creating this technology in which if I talk in my class, students can also watch it, like this webinar. So there's a camera in classroom. When we talk, they can watch it. So I think it will be a case for at least some scenarios and for some time. And there's also this hybrid model where half the class meets on certain days, the other half meets other days. So those things can happen, and I think they are going to happen for at least some.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable speech. Now, thank you. Now I will call upon Mr. Shankar Mandal for his valuable speech in this symposium on this particular issue. Thank you, Suparna sir. Now I am welcoming Mr. Shankar Mandal. Please proceed, sir. Give your valuable speech.
আসলে ভারতে অসংখ্য নিম্ন মধ্যবিত্ত পড়ুয়া আছে, যেটা বিদ্যালয়মুখী হওয়ার জন্য একটা মূল কারণ আমরা লক্ষ্য করতে পারি, সেটা হলো দুপুরের খাবার এবং স্বাস্থ্য, খাদ্য, জীবিকা সুনিশ্চিত করা যেমন জরুরি, পাশাপাশি কিন্তু ভারতবর্ষের এই 23 কোটি পড়ুয়ার ভবিষ্যৎ নিয়েও কিন্তু আমরা খুবই চিন্তিত। তাহলে আমরা দেখতে পাবো যে প্রথম এই যে মৌলিক তিনটে অধিকার, স্বাস্থ্যের নিরাপত্তা, খাদ্যের অপ্রতুলতা এবং জীবিকার বন্দোবস্ত, এই তিনটে যখন আমরা দেখা যাচ্ছে একটা জায়গায় বা ঠিক মতো আমরা নিজেরাই এটা করতে পারছি না, সেখানে পড়াশোনার গুরুত্বটা আমাদের কাছে কিন্তু একটা প্রশ্ন চিহ্ন থেকেই যাচ্ছে। তারপরে দেখা যাচ্ছে প্রাথমিক, মাধ্যমিক এবং উচ্চ মাধ্যমিকে যে পড়াশোনা ঠিক কতটা বা কিভাবে এগোবে সেটাও আমাদের কাছে অনিশ্চিত হয়ে যাচ্ছে। শিক্ষা প্রতিষ্ঠানগুলো হঠাৎ করে দেখা যাচ্ছে বন্ধ হয়ে গেল, সেটাও কিন্তু একটা সমস্যার ব্যাপার হয়ে গেল। আমাদের পশ্চিমবঙ্গের ক্ষেত্রে যদি আমরা বলি তাহলে দেখবো যে উচ্চ মাধ্যমিকের যে পরীক্ষা, সেই পরীক্ষাও বন্ধ হয়ে গেল। তো এই যে সব মিলিয়ে দেখা যাচ্ছে একটা কেমন যেন আমরা দিশাহীন ভাবে দৌড়ে বেড়াচ্ছি। যেমন ছাত্রছাত্রীদের ক্ষেত্রে একটা মানসিক অবসাদে ভোগার মতো জায়গাতে চলে যাচ্ছে, অভিভাবকরাই চলে যাচ্ছে, পরীক্ষা হলো না, কিভাবে রেজাল্ট পাবে, কি হবে না হবে, এটা তো নানান প্রশ্ন চিহ্ন কিন্তু বেঁধে যাচ্ছে। কিন্তু ঘটনা এর থেকে আরো বড় ব্যাপার যেটা, সেটা হচ্ছে যে আহ শহর অঞ্চল যেটা একদমই যদি বলি কলকাতা শহর, শিলিগুড়ি, কোচবিহার, বড় বড় শহরের ক্ষেত্রে বা মফস্বল শহরগুলোর ক্ষেত্রে অনেক সময় কিন্তু খবর কিন্তু অতি সহজেই আহ লোকে জানতে পারে, ছাত্রছাত্রীরা জানতে পারে, অভিভাবকরা জানতে পারে। সেটা আমি যে এলাকা থেকে মানে তুলে ধরার চেষ্টা করছি সেটা হচ্ছে সুন্দরবন অঞ্চল। এই সুন্দরবন অঞ্চলে কিন্তু এই সমস্ত খবরগুলোই কিন্তু অনেক পেছনে পেছনে যেতে থাকে, অনেক দেরিতে যেতে থাকে। তো সেক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু ওদের ভবিষ্যৎ যেটা, সেটা কিন্তু আরো অনেক বেশি ধরনের ওদেরকে এই টেস্টটা নিতে হয়, কিন্তু নিতে হবে, কিছু করার নেই আমাদের এইতে। তবে এই যে ইতিবাচক ভাবনার, এটা যেটা চলছে সেটা চলবেই, কিন্তু এর ইতিবাচক ভাবনার কতগুলো দিক যেমন আমরা দেখছি, লকডাউন যখন হয়েছে তখন থেকে কিন্তু চালু হয়ে গেছে অনলাইনে একটা শিক্ষাদান, ভিডিও লেকচার, টিভি এবং রেডিওতে সম্প্রচার ইত্যাদি, এবং প্রচালিত শিক্ষা দানের কয়েকদিনের বিকল্প হিসাবে কিন্তু এগুলো চলতে পারে, কিন্তু এক ধারাবাহিক ভাবে কিন্তু এগুলো চালানো কিন্তু খুবই মুশকিল। মানে ভারতের যে সমস্ত এলাকাগুলোতে দেখা যাচ্ছে একদমই প্রত্যন্ত এলাকা, এবং পশ্চিমবঙ্গের আমাদের তো সুন্দরবন এলাকায় বলবোই, একেতে করোনা যেটা ভাইরাসের একটা এফেক্ট চলছিল বা চলছে, এবং পাশাপাশি আমফান এসে যেটা করে দিয়ে গেল, সেটা একদম পুরো বেশ কয়েক মাস একটা দীর্ঘমেয়াদী। এখন তো মানুষ ওখানকার ছাত্রছাত্রী থেকে শুরু করে মানুষ সবাই তো কিন্তু যেটা চাইছে সেটা হচ্ছে খাদ্যের নিরাপত্তা চাইছে, বাসস্থানের নিরাপত্তা চাইছে। এই সমস্ত যে সামাজিক নিরাপত্তা গুলো যদি তারা না পায় তাহলে সেক্ষেত্রে তারা কি করবে? আবার আমরা উল্টো দিকে আমরা এক্ষেত্রেও দেখতে পাই, অনেক সময় ইউনেস্কো কি বলছে, ইউনেস্কো থেকে যে সাবধানবাণী আমাদেরকে শুনিয়েছে বা আমরা যেটা দেখতে পাই সেটা হচ্ছে বিশেষ করে সর্বশিক্ষা অভিযানের মৌলিক দিকগুলোকে মাথায় রেখে কাজগুলোকে করতে হবে। যেমন ছাত্রছাত্রীকে ডিজিটাল দুনিয়ার সঙ্গে পরিচিত হতে গেলে যে প্রয়োজন, উচ্চ গতিসম্পন্ন একটা ইন্টারনেটের সংযোগ দরকার, সেই মানে ইন্টারনেট সংযোগগুলো কিন্তু সুন্দরবন অঞ্চলে তেমন ভাবে কিন্তু নাই। তাহলে তাদেরকে কি করতে হবে, তাদেরকে ইন্টারনেটে যদি আমরা সেই ব্যবহারটা না করতে পারি, তাহলে কিন্তু তাদের কাছে আমরা এই পরিষেবাটা, অনলাইন যে পরিষেবা, সেই পরিষেবাটা কিন্তু আমরা পৌঁছে দিতে পারবো না। আর আরেকটা ব্যাপার হচ্ছে যেটা এ তো গেল আপনাদের মানে আমাদের চিন্তা ভাবনা, এবং গ্রাম অঞ্চলের ক্ষেত্রে যেগুলো হয়, যে ল্যাবরেটরির ক্ষেত্রেও যে কাজকর্মগুলো করা হয়, সেইগুলো কিন্তু তারা হাতে কলমে করতে পারছে, হাতে কলমে থেকে দূরস্থ, তারা অনলাইনে কারোর সঙ্গে কারো যোগাযোগ করাটাই তাদের কাছে কিন্তু একটা বেশ দুর্বিষহ মতো হয়ে গেছে। আর একদম নিম্ন আমরা বলতে পারি স্কুল, যেটা 8 পর্যন্ত, সেই সমস্ত 8 এর ছেলে মেয়েরা অধিকাংশ কিন্তু মিড ডে মিল কিন্তু একটা বড় ব্যাপার, সেই মিড ডে মিলের জন্য কিন্তু সেখানকার ছেলেমেয়েরা স্কুলের অভিমুখী হয়, সেইটা কিন্তু এখানে আমরা অনলাইন হওয়ার জন্য ছেলেমেয়েরা কিন্তু অনেকটা ইন্টারেস্ট অনলাইন, মানে ওই গ্রাম অঞ্চলে কিন্তু হচ্ছে না। ঠিক এই পরিস্থিতিতে তাহলে কি করা যেতে পারে? এই পরিস্থিতিতে কিন্তু আহ এখন যোগাযোগ করতে হবে, ফোনে আসতে যোগাযোগ করে তাদেরকে এই প্ল্যাটফর্মে হয়তো নিয়ে আসতে হবে, কিন্তু ঠিক কতদিন চলবে, কিভাবে চলবে, সেটা কিন্তু খুবই সমস্যাজনক ব্যাপার। আর একটা ব্যাপার হচ্ছে যেটা অনেক সময় কি হয়, যেটা আমি গ্রামের ক্ষেত্রেও দেখলাম বিভিন্ন রকম সবাইকে অভিভাবকরা বলছে এই যে পরীক্ষা দেওয়ার ব্যাপারটা, হ্যাঁ, অনেকেই গার্জেন বলছে যে কি পরীক্ষা দিয়ে এলি তুই, এবার কি পরীক্ষা দিয়ে এলি মানে ছেলে তো বোঝাতে পারছে না বাবাকে, বাবা হয়তো পড়াশোনা জানে না, বলছে এই পরীক্ষা মানে হচ্ছে যে একটা জায়গা থেকে আর একটা জায়গাতে গিয়ে যে পরীক্ষা দেওয়া, নতুন একটা স্কুলে যাওয়া, নতুন একটা পরিবেশে যাওয়া, সেই নতুন পরিবেশে গিয়ে বেঞ্চে বসা, তার সিট নাম্বার বা রোল নাম্বার খুঁজে বার করা, এই যে একটা অভিযোজনের কাজ, সেই অভিযোজনের কাজ কিন্তু যেহেতু হচ্ছে না, এবং তার জন্য কিন্তু ছেলে মেয়েরা হয়তো দেখা যাচ্ছে তার অনেকটা বেশি আপডেটেড পড়াশোনাতে, কিন্তু তাদের অভিভাবকরা কিন্তু এই বিষয়টা কিন্তু সহজে মেনে নিতে পারছে না। বিশেষ করে গ্রামাঞ্চলের দিকে, একদম রিমোট গ্রামাঞ্চল, সেই সমস্ত এলাকার ক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু এটা কিন্তু একটা বেশ মানে ছেলে কি পরীক্ষা দিয়ে এলো, মানে বা কি পরীক্ষা দিচ্ছে, এই প্রশ্ন চিহ্নগুলো কিন্তু একটু থেকেই যাচ্ছে। তবে এই ব্যাপারটা মনে হচ্ছে আরো সড়গড় করতে কিন্তু অনেক বেশি সময় লেগে যাবে, একটু লাগবেই, কারণ যেহেতু ব্যাপারটা একেবারেই নতুন, এবং আমাদের কাছেও বেশ, আমরা টেকনোলজিতে হয়তো আরো ডেভেলপ করতে পারলে ছেলে মেয়েদের ক্ষেত্রে অনেক সুবিধা হবে, আস্তে আস্তে হয়ে যাবে, এটা তো সমস্যার কোনো কারণ নেই। তবে এই যে হু এর পরামর্শদাতারা যেটা বলছেন ওনারা, তাদের মূল বক্তব্য হলো যে দেশ বিদেশ থেকে সমস্ত মানুষকে এই কোভিড সংক্রমণের ওপরের সঙ্গে সতর্ক থাকতে হবে এবং প্রস্তুত থাকতে হবে। খুব তাড়াতাড়ি কিন্তু এই জীবাণু বিশ্ব থেকে বিলীন হয়ে কিন্তু যাওয়ার সম্ভাবনা অত্যন্ত ক্ষীণ। তাহলে ব্যক্তি, মানুষ এবং সমষ্টিগত ভাবেই কিন্তু এই ভাইরাসকে রোখার কথা যেমন ভাবতে হবে, এবং এটাই হচ্ছে কোভিড এর একটা প্রস্তুত বা প্রস্তুতি বলা যেতে পারে, এটাই একটা সমাজ ব্যবস্থার মধ্যে চলবে, এটা আমাদেরকে নিয়ে চলতেই হবে। তার সঙ্গেও কিন্তু আমাদের এই তিনটে মৌলিক অধিকারের পাশাপাশি পড়াশোনাটাকে গুরুত্ব দিতে হবে, এবং প্রান্তিক লোকগুলোকে কিন্তু আগে বোঝাতে হবে, বোঝানোর পরে কিন্তু তাদেরকে এই অনলাইন ব্যাপারটা নিয়ে আসতে হবে। তবে এই অনলাইন ব্যাপারে আসার জন্য যে ঘটনাগুলো উঠে এসছে, আমার কাছে বেশ কিছু তথ্য উঠে এসছে। সুন্দরবনে একজন আমাকে হঠাৎ করে একটা ফোন করে বললো যে কি মোবাইল কেনা যেতে পারে। আমি বললাম যে, আমি একটা নাম বললাম মোবাইলে, বলার সঙ্গে সঙ্গে দেখা যাচ্ছে যে উনি তখন বললেন দাম কত, আমি তখন দামটাও ওনাকে বললাম, এবং শুনলাম যে মনে হয় সম্ভবত 2 থেকে 3 দিন বাদে তার মায়ের কানের দুলটাকে বন্ধ রেখে তার ছেলেকে মোবাইল কিনে দিয়েছে অনলাইন ক্লাস করার জন্য। তাহলে বিষয়টা ভাবুন যে কোন জায়গাতে পৌঁছেছে। এবং আমি কিছুদিন আগেও একটা নিউজ পেপারে দেখেছিলাম, সিমলাতে তার বাচ্চা 2 তে এবং 3 তে পড়ে, এবং তার মোবাইল কেনার জন্য তারকে যে গরুটা ছিল তার আয়ের একমাত্র উৎস, সেই গরুটাকেও তাকে বিক্রি করতে হয়েছিল। তো এটা হচ্ছে এক ধরনের একটা দিক। এরকম তো সুন্দরবনেও বেশ প্রচুর ঘটনা এরকম মাঝে মাঝে উঠে আসছে। তবে অতি সাম্প্রতিক আমি কতগুলো ওখানে থেকে তথ্য তুলে নিয়ে এসেছি, যেমন ওখানে বেশ কিছু লোকের এবং ছাত্রছাত্রীদের কথা অনুযায়ী যে এই অনলাইন শিক্ষা মাধ্যম কিন্তু মধ্যমানের শিক্ষার্থীদেরকে অনীহার সৃষ্টি করছে। ওখানকার যে আমি কিছু তথ্য পেয়েছি, সেই তথ্য অনুযায়ী আপনাদেরকে মানে বলছি বক্তব্যগুলো আর কি। দ্বিতীয়ত হচ্ছে যে এই সাধারণ মানের পড়ুয়াদের কাছে প্রত্যক্ষ শিক্ষা ছিল সবচেয়ে সহজ মাধ্যম। মানে ক্লাসেই যদি তারা এই মধ্যম মানের বা শিক্ষার্থীরা যদি পড়াশোনা করতো, তাহলে দেখা যাচ্ছে অতি সহজে তারা কিন্তু মনে পড়াশোনাটা, মানে অনলাইন পড়াশোনাটা তাদের কাছে কিন্তু অনেক কঠিন হয়, মানে কঠিন হয়ে যাচ্ছে। বা একটা হচ্ছে তো প্রযুক্তিগত সমস্যা রয়েছে, আর দ্বিতীয়ত কিন্তু রয়েছে তাদের হয়তো মানে নিতে পারছে না। আরেকটা ব্যাপার হচ্ছে অনলাইন ক্লাস করতে গেলে একটা জায়গায় কিন্তু চুপচাপ তাকে বসে থাকতে হবে, কখনো নেট পাওয়া যাচ্ছে, কখনো নেটের যে কানেকশন পাওয়া যাচ্ছে না। আমি কালকে রাতে একজনকে ফোন করেছিলাম, ফোন করার পরে সে আমাকে বললো দাঁড়ান দাদা আমি বাঁশতলায় যাই, মানে বাঁশতলায় গেলে সে ইন্টারনেটটা পাবে। মানে বিষয়টা হচ্ছে মানে কাউকে যদি ফোন করি সে বলেছে দাঁড়ান আমি রাস্তার উপরে যাই। আবার কেউ যদি লঞ্চে থাকে ভাটার সময়, তখন সে আবার কোনো ক্রমে যদি একবার সে লাইনটা পায়, তখন বলে কি দাদা জোয়ার হলে আপনাকে আমি ফোন করব। তার মানে ব্যাপারটা বুঝতে পারছেন যে এই রকম প্রত্যন্ত এলাকাগুলোতে অনলাইন শিক্ষা ব্যবস্থা মানে কতটা মানে পরিচালনা করা যেতে পারে, সেটা কিন্তু বেশ দুর্বিষহ হয়ে উঠছে। মানে এটা এইভাবে করাটা মনে হয় খুবই সমস্যার ব্যাপার। হয়তো হাই স্পিড ইন্টারনেট না থাকলে এটা করা কিন্তু যাওয়া যাবে বলে মনে হয় না। আর গেলেও হয়তো কিছুদিন যাবে, এরপরে হয়তো ছেলেমেয়েরা আরো অনীহা হারিয়ে ফেলবে। আর একটা ব্যাপার হচ্ছে ক্লাসের 40 মিনিট যে যখন শিক্ষক তার ছাত্রছাত্রীদের সঙ্গে যে পড়াশোনার ব্যাপারটা চালিয়ে যান, তার যে বৌদ্ধিক একটা মানসিক বিকাশের সহায়তা করে, সেটা কিন্তু ওখানে করা যায়। আর এই মানে ক্লাস ক্ষেত্রে করা যায়, কিন্তু এখানে কিন্তু সেটা করা যাচ্ছে না, সেটা বোঝাও যাচ্ছে না ছেলেমেয়েরা কি করছে। ও মানে মাস্টার সাহেব পড়াচ্ছেন, দিদিমণিরা পড়াচ্ছেন, আর ওপারে যে ছেলেমেয়েরা কি করছে সেটা কিন্তু বোঝা কিন্তু খুবই আহ দুর্বিষহ। তারপর কি হচ্ছে, মাস্টার সাথে ক্লাসে অনেক সময় দিদিমণিরা কি করে, যে ও পড়া করছে না, ওর মনোযোগ নেই, ওকে সঙ্গে সঙ্গে ধরা হলো, ধরে কিছু একটা বলা হলো, সঙ্গে সঙ্গে সে হতে বিষয়টা রিকভারি করে নিল। কিন্তু এইটা আহ মানে খুব তাড়াতাড়ি দেখতে হবে যে এগুলোকে কিভাবে সমাধান করা যেতে পারে। আর অনলাইন, আবার অনেকেই এটা বলছে যে অনলাইন শিক্ষা কিন্তু এখন সবচেয়ে ভালো একটা মাধ্যম চালু হয়েছে, এবং এতে কিন্তু ছেলেমেয়েরাও আরো দেখা যাচ্ছে অনেক বেশি মোবাইল এবং কম্পিউটারে অনেক কিছু শিখতে পারছে। সেটাও আবার কিন্তু সুন্দরবন অঞ্চলের অনেক অভিভাবকদের কিন্তু শিক্ষা কিন্তু এটা তার মধ্যে কিন্তু এটা উঠে আসছে। তাহলে এর মধ্যে আবার দেখা যাচ্ছে কিছু অসুবিধাও কিন্তু আমাদের মধ্যেও লক্ষ্য করাও গেছে। সেটা প্রথম অসুবিধা মনে হয়েছে যেটা, সেটা কিন্তু এই যে সকলের আর্থিক অবস্থা কিন্তু একদমই সমান নয়। মানে এই যে ল্যাপটপ, ডেস্কটপ বা উচ্চমানের যে স্মার্টফোন যে ব্যবহার করা, সেইটা কিন্তু সবার সামর্থ্য নেই। বা হাই স্পিড নেট, এই যে নেটের প্যাক গুলো ও মানে বেশ ভালো টাকায় 400 টাকা বা 500 টাকা বা 600 টাকা যে প্যাক মারা, সেটা ক্ষমতাও কিন্তু অনেকের নেই। আবার শ্রেণীকক্ষে শিক্ষক শিক্ষার্থীদের মধ্যে যে নিবিড় সম্পর্কটা গড়ে ওঠে, সেখানে কিন্তু প্রাতিষ্ঠানিক ভাবে না থাকার জন্য সেই সম্পর্কটা গড়ে থাকা যাচ্ছে না। তাই এই ভাবের যে আদান প্রদান, সেই ভাবের আদান প্রদানটা কিন্তু অনলাইনের মধ্যে তৈরি করা যাচ্ছে না। আর প্রত্যেক শিক্ষার্থীর প্রতিক্রিয়া বুঝতে পারা সম্ভব হয় না শিক্ষক মশাইয়ের পক্ষে। মানে যেহেতু দূরে থাকেন, সে কিন্তু বোঝা সম্ভব নয়, যার ফলে কিন্তু সে মনোযোগ হারিয়ে ফেলছে। তবুও চেষ্টা করতে হবে, এখন যে পরিস্থিতিতে আমরা রয়েছি সেই পরিস্থিতিতে এই অনলাইন এডুকেশনের মাধ্যমে শিক্ষার্থীদেরকে আরো কাছে এগিয়ে নিয়ে আসার জন্য। তবে আশা করা যেতে পারে খুব তাড়াতাড়ি হয়তো আমরা এই সমস্যার সমাধান থেকে বেরিয়ে আসতে পারবো, এবং হয়তো আবার সবাই স্বাভাবিক হয়ে যাবে। স্বাভাবিকভাবে নতুন ভাবে আমরা নতুন পৃথিবীকে আবার দেখবো। সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ।
ধন্যবাদ উমাশঙ্কর বাবু। Thank you, Mr. Umashankar Mandal. Those who are outside from Bengal, they were maybe unable to understand your speech. But in brief, I am telling that he has highlighted so many drawbacks of this online education, and there is lots of disparity between the rural and urban education system, as we all know. And Sundarban is such a region that it faces annual cyclones and floods. So many problems are there. So it's quite difficult to introduce the online education. We have to think an alternative way, or we must have some discussions over that, how to arrange some facilities to those students. Otherwise, a huge section of the society will become illiterate, particularly what we can say technologically illiterate. So that will bring menace to the poor people, as they will not be able to take the facilities of the education there, proper education, what the private schools and organizations are giving in towns and cities and metropolitan areas. So thank you, Shankar Mandal Mahashay. I will ask you one or two questions. That is, in Bengali I am speaking. যারা দুবেলা দুমুঠো খেতে পায় না, যেখানে ইন্টারনেট যোগাযোগ বিচ্ছিন্ন, সেখানে কিভাবে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের অনলাইন এডুকেশনের বিকল্প সুযোগ দেওয়া যেতে পারে? বিকল্পটা কি হতে পারে? মানে আমরা আপনার কাছ থেকে জানতে চাইছি বিকল্প কি কি হতে পারে, আর কতটা যদি অনলাইন করা হয় কতটা মনোগ্রাহী বা আনন্দদায়ক করা যেতে পারে, বাস্তবে কতটা করা যেতে পারে এই মুহূর্তে আমরা
না, অনেক সময় এই যে যারা একটু উচ্চ মেধা সম্পন্ন ছাত্রছাত্রী, তারা হয়তো বিষয়টাকে সহজে নিয়ে নিচ্ছে, কিন্তু মধ্য মেধা সম্পন্ন ছাত্রছাত্রী বা তার থেকে নিম্ন যেটা মেধা, আমরা যেটা মানে আমরা স্কুলের ক্ষেত্রে যেটা দেখি যে 25 থেকে 35-40 পেয়ে যারা পাস করে, সেই সমস্ত ছেলে মেয়েদের কিন্তু এদেরকে এই আঙিনা নিয়ে আসাটা খুব মুশকিল। কারণ তারা কিন্তু খুব মানে এরা এই শিক্ষকের দ্বারাই খুব ভালোভাবে পরিচালিত হয় ক্লাসরুমে, এদের কিন্তু এটা খুব
এর
সমস্যা।
বিকল্প আমরা কি পেতে পারি, মানে বিকল্প হিসেবে কিছু ভাবনা চিন্তা কি
বিকল্প
আছে?
বিকল্প বলতে বিকল্প এক হতে পারে ওই
ভিডিওর
ভিডিও,
মাধ্যমে
হ্যাঁ
বা কিছু?
না ভিডিও অডিও এগুলো তো চলছেই, আর একটা হতে পারে যে এদের পুরো একটা ডাটা ব্যাংক তৈরি করে, মানে যারা যে স্কুলে পড়ান ডাটা ব্যাংক তৈরি করে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের সঙ্গে ফোন করে তাদের সঙ্গে যদি একটা কমিউনিকেট করা যায়, তাদের গার্জেন গুলোকে যদি বোঝানো যায়, তাহলে কিন্তু বিষয়টা হচ্ছে কি, সেই গার্জেনকে বোঝানো হলো সবই ঠিক আছে, তারপর যখনই সকালে হলো তখন সেই আহ রুটি রোজগারের ব্যাপারটা চলে আসে। একটা মানে সেই হাওয়া, বাইরের হাওয়াটা দেখাচ্ছে, পড়াশোনার মধ্যে ঢুকে গিয়ে কিন্তু আবার নষ্ট হয়ে গেল। এটা কিন্তু আমি একদম বাস্তব চোখের সামনে পুরো দেখতে পাচ্ছি একদম।
ঠিক আছে, অনেক ধন্যবাদ আপনাকে উমাশঙ্কর মন্ডল মহাশয়। We are very thankful to you. Now I will switch over to Mr. Shubham Pal to give his views on the burning issue. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Gold, and thank you all the organizers who have invited me for this insightful discussion. And I think probably I am the, I'm the odd one out in the entire panel of distinguished academicians or scholars. Being a journalist, I'm not directly related to academics, the field of education or academics, but but I have witnessed COVID, in fact, earlier than most of the people, because since I live in China, I've been working in China. So I've seen COVID right in the months of January, February, when there was not a single case of COVID in India. So, and I have seen one of the most phenomenal combat of COVID in China in the month of February, March, and April. So now it's pretty normal. But in those last 6 months, almost 6 months or 7 months, so because if I really count from January, on January 23rd, China went for the countrywide cordon sanitizer or lockdown on January 23rd onwards. So since then, I've seen a lot of changes because the online education has become, I'm sorry to use the cliche, but the online education has become the new normal. So we have been living in this world, current world, where online education is the norm and is the ultimate solution to our problems at this moment, because there's no way, because of social distancing and COVID is still there. The pandemic is still spreading its tentacles across the globe, and not a single country or not a single continent is left out of its reach. So that's why I believe the whole world has seen an amazing transformation. So is the education world. The entire concept of schooling and education has witnessed a paradigm shift. That's quite evident. And as an Indian, and I lived in India, I studied in India. So from that perspective, I can say that what we need at this moment is confidence, and we can't underestimate ourselves. That's very important, because as a journalist, I can give you certain statistics and data. Like India has got the second highest number of internet users across the world. Even there are more internet users than the United States. The most number of internet users are in China, where I'm currently in. So there are close to 1.3 billion internet users. So there is a massive digital penetration in China. And after that, India has got 560 million internet users. And it's expected by the end of 2021, the number will increase to 650 million, which is quite a phenomenal number. So from that perspective, I can say we are in a better position to kickstart this education, online education process. And most importantly, like I want to use a technical term for online education, which is SMAC, SMAC. SMAC means, C for cloud, S for system analytics, and also social, S for social, then M for mobile, A for analytics, and C for cloud. So the integration of SMART is actually playing a huge role in online education in today's world. So because we have this cloud-based AI, artificial intelligence, blockchain, big data, these are the currently, like, these are the game-changing things the whole world is witnessing at this moment. So from that perspective, I can tell you that integration of SMAC technology is very important, and I can see in India it's been implemented. Like China has done it so phenomenally well, because I have seen how the Chinese education has completely gone online from offline or on-site. I won't use the word offline, because here I think in this context I can segregate the education into three parts. One is online education, which is live webcast or mobile cast, or like what we are doing right now, streaming, live streaming. So that can be called online. And offline is a lot of internet materials like videos, YouTube videos, or special videos. So those can be dubbed as offline, which you can watch. Uh, on the internet, but not live cast. And third is on-site, which is at the school. So the education system has seen a massive, change, transformation in this world. And also, I'd like to highlight another thing, because from my China experience, I can see. There is I think not too many people in India know about that. That's a very interesting fact. I think I haven't read about this anywhere, because recently we have got to know that I have got to know I think Indian government, they have come up with their new NEP, new education policy, which has seen a lot of things, a lot of debates. I haven't gone into much details about it, but yeah, I have some superficial knowledge, I would say, about that, or idea. But in that respect, I can say, and I know Dr. Gore and some of your panelists, you are educationists, you are really, good scholar, erudite scholars. So you are based in West Bengal, and during our time when we were, studying in school, I studied from Shantiniketan, and some of you, like Professor Shupano Banerjee and Dr. Jayanta Gaur, you also studied from Shantiniketan. So we had a different board. But during our time, those students who studied in West Bengal board, they actually, their English education started quite late. I think from class 6th or something like that, because there used to be, there was a time when, the English education was before that. I think it started when people were in class 1 or second standard, class 2. But during our time, English education in government schools in West Bengal started in when students were in class 6. One of the logic was, yeah, even in China, people study in their own language. Yes, that's true. I've seen people study in Mandarin. In China, Mandarin is the only language, or most prominent language. I think most of the people, even if they have dialects, they have many dialects. They have languages like Cantonese, which is spoken in South China, but predominantly it's Mandarin, which is the language across China. So education is in China. So that logic was good, but there was a big flaw which our West Bengal education department or the government, they didn't realize. They were completely unaware of that thing. I think most of us didn't know about that, but I have come to know after coming to China, which is very important for every children's life, is the numbers. So in China, although people study, speak in Chinese or Mandarin or simplified Chinese, but the number here everywhere, whether you go to a school, you go to a restaurant, you go to any place, anywhere and everywhere in China, the numbers, the digits which are used are in English. Yes. Like unlike those days, like when we were in school, West Bengal government school kids, we used to learn, the numbers in Bengali, like ek, dui, teen, char, panch. In Chinese, they pronounce it. They pronounce one as e, san si wu liu qi pa qiu shi, 1 to 10. I've just pronounced in Chinese, but when they write it, it's always, the number is always written in English. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, blah, blah. So that's a fundamental thing because, the new education policy, I can see there is coding. Coding will be taught, I think, at class 6 standard or maybe earlier than that, or 5th or 4th standard. If I'm not wrong, it's 6th standard. So coding and all this kind of computing, I mean, digits are very important. So, learning up to class 5th, I mean, counting or learning your mathematics with Bengali digit and then suddenly switching over to English digit. Actually, that's where we were lacking in those days. A lot of bright students from West Bengal, they couldn't make it to the bigger league. I mean, especially the IITs and IITs and from the top-notch engineering or medical institutes in those days because of this problem. Because once you learn, because you always remember, it's a natural process. In Bengali, if you started learning your numbers in Bengali, every time until your death, you will, whenever somebody will ask something about the numbers, your mind will always react to your mother tongue number. So if you have written the numbers in school in Bengali, so you will always prefer to write in Bengali. That should be your preferred choice mostly. I mean, it's due to our, I mean, it's not consciously, but subconscious mind, it happens, it comes to us. So that was the problem. So I believe in education system, the number digits, in writing in English is very important, which China has done. So there are few things we can learn from China. It's not I'm against replicating a certain model because everybody, India has got a massive internet reach. And to be honest, another interesting thing I would like to tell you, because after living in China here, I've seen people, their online education need is very, very system driven. Like they don't experiment much. They don't think much out of the box. Everything is whatever is said. Like there is an app called DigiTalk. Uh, online education is, basically imparted through that app. But in India, I think many of you have been using so many apps, like right from Zoom to even this live streaming which we're doing right now. It's another app. So we have been like Indians. We are creative people. We always love to think out of the box. That's a difference because Chinese, they're very disciplined, they're dedicated, but we may not be as disciplined because we don't follow a system properly. We have our own mind, and we are creative people. So, and also the great Indian thing called jugaad. That's also very important for education because once you are doing online, so you improvise those stuff. I mean, it's not. I'm talking about not just students, but teachers. The teachers can actually be very creative, which I've seen they have been doing. Some of the videos some of the teachers are making are unbelievable. I mean, those are so creative, so cool. In fact, I would rather prefer as a student. If I would have been a student, I would rather learn from watching those videos than learning inside the classroom. So I think that way education, online education is here to stay. And COVID is a pandemic which we haven't seen in our lifetime. I mean, the last big global pandemic was in 1910 onwards when the Spanish flu started devastating, spreading across the world. So that was the first phase of the last pandemic the whole world has seen before COVID came. So I think we have to embrace it. And as I reiterating, like we are the very creative people. So I think we can improvise with the limited opportunities, limited facilities we are having. I think that's very important, and I firmly believe we can actually do it because we have. And another thing is internet speed. India's internet speed is quite fast. I mean, I have been to a lot of countries all over the world. I think even I feel like India's internet speed is, though officially on paper, China's internet speed is very fast. But I think India has got a very stable internet connections, and India's internet connection is, in fact, I can tell you, like the Wi-Fi which I've got, the connectivity I've got in Indian cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta, in some of the public places like some coffee shops or restaurants, which are far faster than the Wi-Fi internet speed I received. I experienced in Europe, like France, countries like France, Belgium. So I can tell you, those kind of Indian internet is really fast. Of course, not as fast as Japan or Korea, South Korea, but it's fast. So we can be, we can improvise with that. And online education, another important thing I believe that you have to, give the students a lot of, online education gives a chance to, give them a chance to get connected to their family, because in some of the metros, I'm not talking about the rural areas, but some of the urban areas, the current problem is when both parents are working, so children get very little time, little focus from their parents. So if they are doing online education, I think the parents also can be, they can actually spend more time with the kids. And because you have to think about that, because once a kid is at home, the parents are also at home, because some of the private companies and a lot of companies, corporates, they are they are embracing this work from home culture, because that's also here to stay. So I think the bonding can, we can think about the positive side. The bonding can actually get enhanced. And also another thing is, the students can actually, get a lot of, time for themselves. And the parents can be less stressed out, because once the kids are in school, I think every parent, they are having that stress in their mind, what's happening with my kids, whether he is back or she is back at home or not. So these kind of concerns, safety issues are always in a parent's mind. So I think online education can actually erase those stress or problems in a parent's mind. And but one drawback, and another thing, most of the Indians, we I think we have a notion about it that rural areas people, how can we teach them? They are not so educated. They are not so exposed to high tech. I totally disagree with that, because I have seen so many. The TikTok. TikTok is a software. We have seen like so many people used in the rural areas of remotest of the remote villages. They are uploading videos on TikTok, and they're fiddling with that software. If they're able to fiddle with the software and they can play with it, so what's the problem of a child from rural area embracing the technology or online education? It's absolutely fine. But yes, the previous speaker, Dr. Uma Shankar, what he said, I totally agree with it, because there are some areas, especially in Sundarban, some of the really remote areas where there are a lot of problems like floods, sometimes droughts, and those areas, like especially like extreme climatic conditions, it's very difficult to carry out online education. So that's why I use the segregation of offline. So I think offline is also not bad. Of course, you can say that there may not be electricity, but I think offline in the sense, like if we can, prepare video modules, for each
Yeah.
topic or each
Yeah.
subject, I think that's also very important. So yeah, I don't
Exactly.
want to drag any further. And the distinguished speakers, they have spoken a lot about positive aspects of education and the pitfalls of it. So I would like to conclude here, and I hope, like I could kind of I could reach out to whatever questions you had in your mind. Probably I could, I tried my best to answer those queries, because I myself have
Sir,
also thought about those things. So yeah,
already from
here I
Dubai.
conclude, and thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Yes,
Mr.
so
Shubhampal.
yeah.
One of our participant from Dubai, he has one question. Do you think that this pandemic has given us an opportunity to look towards to have a better change in the entire system of education in India or in China?
Absolutely,
Again, I am
because
repeating.
I still remember, yeah, Dhirubhai Ambani used to say one thing that, opportunities, adversities give rise to opportunities. So I totally believe, and even in our Hindu mythology, like the Samudra Manthan, that was basically after chaos, everything, the Amrit, the nectar came after all kinds of, poisons, everything, the chaos, and then the nectar came. I mean, we basically took out the nectar. So it's the natural course. Like after every, maybe right now it's a tumultuous time, and once it's over, hopefully it will be over soon, and then we can have new opportunities. I think absolutely, I totally agree. Especially field like artificial intelligence, big data, blockchain. So these are the next generation educational, I would say, field. So in those fields, like if you are learning it online, I think your capability will be enhanced, and you can actually improvise, and you will be learning faster. So that's what I believe in. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Pal. Obviously, you are correct that all time if we say that online education is not suitable, not practicable in the rural areas, in those areas. But if we take the advantages of the online educations and think in a different way and give the advantages of the online education in offline mode also, then it will be much more better for our education system, and particularly in developing countries. So thank you for
Yeah,
giving
and
your valuable
yeah, I
speech.
just want to add one thing, one small thing. Yeah, just one example about rural area. You all of us, I think, have remembered there used to be 100-year-old lady in a far-away, remote village area in Andhra Pradesh who used to cook a lot of new recipes of non-vegetarian products and food items, and she became a YouTube sensation. So we have umpteen number of such examples. If they can do it, I mean, a 100-year-old illiterate lady in a faraway remote village in Andhra Pradesh can use the YouTube to become so popular, or somebody, increase his or her popularity through TikTok. So why can't our students in rural area embrace the online education? I think it's possible. We shouldn't underestimate ourselves. That's what I am very optimistic, and I would like to conclude with that optimism. Thank you so much. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Shubham Pal. Now, I will switch over to our fourth speaker, Professor Molay Mukhopadhyay, to give his views on the burning international issue. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you, Jayanto. I'm really happy that these two organizations, they have included my name in this discussion. And this is a very burning issue now in our earth. In every corner of our earth, the people are really in search of the right answer and what will be the right way by which we will come to our this situation, by which we will overcome the problem what we are facing today now. Now, the main thing, I am very much accord with the opinion of Suparno, Shubham, and Umashankar. A very good discussion. And this the day has come when we have to find out the way by which, you see, this online teaching, imposition of online education system, whether it is acceptable or not. Yes, I'm very much with your opinion. This is inevitable because the social distancing or physical distancing, to maintain this, we have to follow it. But being a geographer, to me, the scenario is little bit different. That is, the earth is painted with different culture, different societies. And what we are doing, what we have done yet, that we make our earth into a modern form, that is eco-monopolies. That means the urban centers are very much with the same infrastructure almost, and the same fashion or same type of the architectural design or food habit, dress, manners, everything. My question is that we enjoy if there is some differences in our livelihood pattern, in our daily life, in our food habit. And with the help of modernization, with the help of the advent of infrastructural facilities, we are providing to every corner of the earth, then earth will turn into one net where there is the same culture, almost same fashion, same food habit, almost. We are going towards that goal. Ultimately, that gives us a very monotonous life. Well, before, when I went United States in the year 1991 or 90s, the first half of, I noticed there is a variation in lifestyle, in food habit, in infrastructure from my area to that area, of that area. And today, when I went last year, I noticed almost we have come enjoying the same facilities, same infrastructure. Okay, this is a very good part of our advancement. But gradually we are losing the diversity. Diversity brings life. Diversity brings new horizon, and how you will handle, how you tackle the situation, because some problems may be solved by some, uh, traditional wisdom of some remote part of the world. Today we are facing a problem that we are included in that problem, and we have to find out the right way how we'll get rid from this problem. বিষয়টা হচ্ছে যে আমরা যেভাবে আমাদের জীবনটাকে সাজাচ্ছি, যেভাবে আমরা একটা মনোটোনাস লাইফের দিকে যাচ্ছি, সেটা বোধহয় আজকে অনলাইন এডুকেশন যদি আসে, যেটা আমার আগের বক্তারা বলে যাচ্ছেন, তাতে কিন্তু হোল ওয়ার্ল্ড কিন্তু একটা এডুকেশন সিস্টেমের মধ্যে আসবে। এবং হয়তো পরে আমাদের নেক্সট জেনারেশন বলবে একটা রিমোটেস্ট পার্টে একটা বিউটিফুল একটা এডুকেশন সিস্টেম ছিল, and this policy actually helps to evaporate that education system. Our earlier presenter, he said very nicely, 1 2 3 4 আমরা বাংলায় শিখি, সেটা কিন্তু 1 2 3 4 লিখছি, কিন্তু চাইনিজ পিপল দে আর প্রনাউন্সিং ইন দ্যাট ফর্ম ইন দ্যার ওন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ। এই যে একটা এক্সপেরিমেন্টাল পার্ট, আজ যদি আমরা ওটাকে 1 2 3 4 করে ফেলি, তাহলে ভবিষ্যতে কিন্তু ডিপেন্ড করতে হবে, আমাদের খুঁজে বার করতে হবে যে এই জায়গাটা কি ছিল বা প্রনাউন্সিয়েশনটা কি ছিল এবং চাইনিজ ওয়ার্ডটা কি ছিল 1 2 3 4 5 6। তাহলে অনলাইন এডুকেশন ইনএভিটেবল। এখন এই প্রবলেমটাকে ওভারকাম করার জন্য আমাদের এটাকে নিতেই হবে, ভাবতেই হবে, থাকতেই হবে। কিন্তু এর গ্রেটার হইতে যদি ভাবি, তাহলে যারা এটা নিয়ে খুব চর্চা করছেন, দোজ হু আর ভেরি মাচ কনসার্নড অ্যাবাউট দিস প্রবলেম, then they must find out some compartment, keep apart, যেটা পরে কিন্তু আমরা ফিরে আসতে পারি এবং আমরা নতুন কিছু একটা কন্ট্রিবিউট করতে পারি in our future system of education. আমি দেখেছি from a little experience যে কিছু কিছু জিনিস একদম রিমোটেস্ট পার্ট পৃথিবীর, সেটা কিন্তু আস্তে আস্তে হারিয়ে গেছে। But after that we came to know, or we believe, that those activities, those ideas, those social system have very scientific base from the point of view of physical science, from the point of view of social science. আজকে যদি আমরা অনলাইন এডুকেশনটাকে ইম্পোজ করি জোর করে, because to overcome the problem immediately we have to have, but to make it a successful form, যদি আমরা আমাদের এক্সিস্টিং যে এডুকেশন সিস্টেম আছে কোনো কোনো জায়গায় পৃথিবীতে, সেটাকে বাঁচিয়ে সরিয়ে রেখে যদি আমরা আসতে পারি, তাহলে হয়তো আগামী দিনে আমাদের এই এডুকেশন সিস্টেমটাকে আরেকটু মডার্নাইজ করার জায়গা থাকতে পারে। একটা মনোটোনাস লাইফ সারা পৃথিবীতে অলরেডি ইম্পোজড হয়ে গেছে। If you see the major metropolitan cities, there looks very much similar. If you enter into a particular restaurant, reputed restaurant, the system of display, the system of food, their system of menu chart, and almost very much similar with the monotonous city. তাহলে এই অনলাইন এডুকেশন সিস্টেম এনে আমরা কি একটা মনোটোনাস এডুকেশন সিস্টেমের দিকে যাব বা যাচ্ছি? ইফ আর ইউ গোয়িং টুয়ার্ডস দ্যাট ওয়ে, ইন দ্যাট পার্ট হোয়ার দ্যাট উইল গিভস এ ভেরি মনোটোনাস সিস্টেম? এটা আমার একটু বলার ছিল। আমরা দেখেছি যে এই যে ক্লাস টিচিং এর মধ্যে with my 32 experience, when I interacting with my students, and তাদের কতগুলো ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ থাকে, তাদের চোখের ভাষা থাকে, they want to say something, তারা কেউ কেউ বুঝতে পারেন, কেউ কেউ বুঝতে পারে না। আমার একটা বডি ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ থাকে, আমার ভলিউম মডুলেশনটা তারা বুঝতে পারেন। আমি যখন অনলাইনে বলছি তখন I am very much alone. I cannot interact with the students, those who are Shubhan Roy বললেন he prefers to deliver lecture in a classroom where there is more than or 200 students. Then আমি যখন আমার স্টুডেন্টদের পাই আমার ক্লাসেতে, I get some ups and downs in their receiving part. এখন এইটা যখন এক হয়ে যাবে, যখন আমি স্ক্রিনে আমি টিচ করব, তখন হয়তো সেই সব কিছুটা পাবো, আমি পাবো না তা নয়, কিছুটা পাবো থ্রু দিস কোশ্চেন ইন্টারাকশন পাবো। কিন্তু যখন আমি স্ক্রিনে আসবো তখন ওই যে একটা ভাইব্রেশন অ্যামং দ্য টিচার অ্যান্ড অ্যামং দ্য স্টুডেন্টস, এটা কিন্তু হারিয়ে যাবে। এতদিন ধরে আমরা সভ্যতার এই জায়গাটায় পৌঁছেছি along with these vibrations and realizations and understanding, এইসব দিয়ে নিশ্চয়ই আমাদের কাছে একটা দিন এসছে, the day has come where we have to find out যে আমরা কি করে এটা ওভারকাম করব। বা আমেরিকাতে কোনো জায়গায় ছেলেদের মধ্যে, স্টুডেন্টদের মধ্যে একটা ডিপ্রেশন আসছে, সাইকোলজিক্যাল ডিসঅর্ডার আসছে। ওকে, দিস আর দ্য কেসেস ফ্রম হুইচ উই ক্যান গেট an idea and then we can formulate our future program or how we will proceed further, that we can find it out. তার উপরে যেটা আমার মনে হচ্ছে, এই যে আমি একটু প্রসঙ্গটা নিয়ে আসি, রবীন্দ্রনাথ ঠাকুরের শান্তিনিকেতনে যে শিক্ষা ব্যবস্থা উনি করেছিলেন, ভেরি মাচ ইন্টারমিংলিং উইথ নেচার। তার মানে একটা হলিস্টিক বিদ্যা, শিক্ষা, বিদ্যা দ্যাট উই ক্যান আর্ন, শিক্ষা দ্যাট উই ক্যান আর্ন। তো মিডিয়াম, একটা মিডিয়াম লাগে। সেন উনি বলছেন যে একটা ওপেন এয়ারে একটা সুন্দর ক্লাস করো, তুমি অনেক কিছু শেখো। একটা দিন কিন্তু অনেক কিছু শেখার জন্যে। আমাদের যেটা বলছেন যে একটা ল্যান্ডস্কেপ, একটা এডুকেশন সিস্টেম, একটা পার্টিকুলার এরিয়া, একটা পার্টিকুলার ইনস্টিটিউটের, সেটা কিন্তু অনেক সময় অ্যাকসেপ্টেড হয় বা ডিসকার্ডেড হয়। আবার কিছুদিন সময় পরে বাই টেম্পোরাল অ্যানালিসিস, দেন উই ফিল দ্যাট that system was right, and through that system one can expose himself or herself totally. আর যদি আমরা এই সিস্টেমটাকে আমি ডিসকার্ড করছি না with my little knowledge, I don't know how far the extent of a online teaching system, কিন্তু এইখানে কি হয়, একটা এই যে আমরা যে কোনো জ্ঞান যখন পাই চতুর্দিক থেকে, একটা ক্লাসরুমে বসে থাকলে একটা বন্ধু, তার সঙ্গে কথা বলা, ইন্টারাকশন করা, টিচারের সঙ্গে কথা বলা, তাকে তার সঙ্গে তার নলেজের সঙ্গে নিজের নলেজটাকে মিশিয়ে দেওয়া, এক্সপিরিয়েন্স শেয়ার করা আমার কাছে মনে হয় যে অনেক ভালো। এবং আমি কিন্তু আজকে কোনো ডিবেটে আসছি না। আই এম নট টকিং ফর অর এগেনস্ট অফ অনলাইন টিচিং, নো। My request to the learned people, একটা monotonous education system না করে আমরা যদি একটা স্পেশাল যে ডাইভার্সিফিকেশন আছে ইন এডুকেশন সিস্টেম সবকটাকে যদি আমি এন্টারটেন করি, তারপর তাকে যদি মোজাইক করতে পারি, তাহলে হয়তো এই অনলাইন এডুকেশন সিস্টেমটা অনেক পেনিট্রেট করবে, অনেক অ্যাকসেপ্টেবল হবে। এখন যে জিনিসটা দাঁড়াচ্ছে, দ্য কান্ট্রি or the nation or the continent, those who are superior in the field of the technology, the rest of the world should follow that. একটা ছোট্ট দেশ, তার একটা আলাদা এডুকেশন সিস্টেম থাকতে পারে। With this online teaching, that will be evaporated. সেইখানটা ভাবতে হবে। COVID-19 সিচুয়েশনে আমার যা সোশ্যাল ডিস্টেন্সিং, ফিজিক্যাল ডিস্টেন্সিং হচ্ছে, একটা অফলাইন, অনলাইন, অনসাইট সিস্টেম অফ টিচিং সবকটাকে আমরা মানবো, কিন্তু যেটাকে আমি দেখতে হবে, এইটা করতে গিয়ে একটা যে গুড সাইড, একটা যে ভীষণ সুন্দর একটা জায়গা আছে এডুকেশন সিস্টেমটাকে মডার্নাইজ করার, সেটা যেন আমরা থ্রু দিস অনলাইন সিস্টেম ওটাকে যেন আমরা ইরোড করে না ফেলি। আমার মনে হয়েছে, আমি প্রথমেই বলেছিলাম যে একটা ইকোমেনোপলিস, যখন কেউ কেউ বলছেন যে ডক্সিন বলছেন যে যখন হোল ওয়ার্ল্ডটা টার্নস ইনটু আরবান সেন্টার, তখন একটা মেস তৈরি হবে। তাহলে আমরা যদি এই সমস্ত সিস্টেমটাকে যে অনলাইন এডুকেশন সিস্টেম করে একটাই ফ্রেমওয়ার্কে যেন হোল ওয়ার্ল্ডকে টিচ করতে চাইবো, তখন কিন্তু আমরা আননোয়িংলি একটা জিনিসকে কিন্তু নষ্ট করে ফেলবো। দ্যাট ইজ দ্য স্পেশাল ভ্যারিয়েশন, দ্যাট ইজ দ্য টেম্পোরাল ভ্যারিয়েশন। আমাদের ভাবতে হবে যে জায়গাটায়, সেটা হচ্ছে যদি আমরা অনলাইন সিস্টেমে এডুকেশনে আসি, জানি না ভবিষ্যতে আরো কিভাবে কোন ফর্মে আসবে, কিন্তু একটা স্টুডেন্ট, যেটা উমাশঙ্কর বাবু বললেন, তার মধ্যে একটা ভ্যারিয়েশন আসে স্টুডেন্ট লাইফে। আমি স্কুল থেকে কলেজে যাব, ফ্রম দিস ক্লাসরুম টু দ্যাট ক্লাসরুম যাব। এই যে একটা মনোটোনাসিটির বাইরে, এটার জন্য বোধহয় বেঁচে আছে, কারণ ইউনিটি ইন ডাইভার্সিটি এটা বোধহয় প্রাইম স্লোগান হওয়া উচিত পৃথিবীর বুকেতে। আদারওয়াইজ সমস্ত সভ্যতাটা যদি একদিকে চলে যায়, আমি একটা আর্টিকেল লিখেছিলাম, সেটা হচ্ছে যে ইন সার্চ অফ মনোটনি, আমরা একটা মনোটোনাস লাইফের দিকে যাচ্ছি। আমাদের ক্লাসে আমার মাস্টারমশাই ইংরেজি শেখাতেন, তিনি বলতেন, তোর দ্বারা ইংরেজি হবে না, তোর দ্বারা ইংরেজি হবে, ইউ আর ভেরি মাচ এক্সপার্ট ইন স্পেলিং অ্যান্ড রাইটিং, আর তুই কিছুই পারিস না। বাট উইথ দ্য হেল্প অফ দিস টেকনোলজি, দিস কম্পিউটার অর দিস ডিভাইসেস, আমরা উই ক্যান নট ডিফারেন্সিয়েট বিটুইন দিস এক্স অ্যান্ড ওয়াই। বিষয়টা একটু আমি বলার চেষ্টা করছি এইভাবে, যদি আমরা অনলাইন টিচিংটাকে যদি একটা ফ্রেমে নিয়ে চলে আসি, যেটা আসবে আলটিমেটলি, যদি ইফ আই সাপোর্ট হোল হার্টেডলি অর ইফ আই অ্যাকসেপ্ট দ্য এন্টার পার্ট অফ অনলাইন টিচিং, then that will ultimately the results of online teaching at a monotonous form of, আমি জানি, আমি বিশ্বাস করি আপনার মতন, যে with the advent of this education system we will have a very better life and we will get a new horizon in our education part. কিন্তু এটাও ঠিক, যদি আমরা এটা পেতে চাই, অনেক কিন্তু ছোট ছোট এডুকেশন সিস্টেম উইল বি ইভাপোরেট, তারা উইল বি ডিস্ট্রয়েড, উইল বি স্পয়েলড। আমাদের সেই জায়গাটা ভাবতে হবে। আমি আজকের যে সিচুয়েশন, তাতে আমি নিশ্চয়ই ইন ফেভার অফ অনলাইন টিচিং, এছাড়া কোনো উপায় নেই। সোশ্যাল ডিস্টেন্সিং, ফিজিক্যাল ডিস্টেন্সিং যদি রাখতে হয়, অনলাইন, অফলাইন, অফলাইন মিনস ক্রিয়েটিং ভিডিও অ্যান্ড অল দিস, রাইট। কিন্তু আমাকে ঠিক রাখতে হবে যে আমরা ডেভিয়েট করে যাচ্ছি না তো, আমাদের যে জায়গাটা, আসল জায়গাটা আমাদের সৌন্দর্য জীবনের, সেটা হচ্ছে ডাইভার্সিটি। এই ডাইভার্সিটিটা একটা মনোটোনাস জায়গায় চলে যাচ্ছি না তো, এটা আমার মনে হয়েছে। আজকে এই আলোচনাতে যে বিষয়টা উঠে এসছে খুব সুন্দরভাবে, সেখান থেকে এই আলোচনার কিছু অংশ যদি কোনো এডুকেশন পলিসিতে অ্যাকসেপ্ট করা হয়, তাহলে সেখানে যদি ইনক্লুড করা হয় যে আমাদের এই মনোটোনাস ব্যাপারটা থেকে ডাইভার্সিটি ইন টিচিং সিস্টেম অর অনলাইন টিচিং we should give attention on that point that আমাদের কিন্তু মনোটোনাস দিকে যেন না চলে যাই, আমরা যেন এই আলাদা ডাইভার্সিফাইড যে এডুকেশন সিস্টেম আছে সেটাকে যেন আমরা এটি জোর দিতে পারি। আমি রবীন্দ্রনাথের এডুকেশন সিস্টেমটাকে ভীষণই ভালোবাসি, পছন্দ করি, অনেকেই করেন আপনারা। সেখানে একটা হলিস্টিক একটা ডেভেলপমেন্ট হয়, নট ইন এডুকেশন, দ্য ডেভেলপমেন্ট ইন অল হোলিস্টিক ফর্ম অফ লাইফ। সেই জন্য একটা ক্লাসরুম টিচিং এর একটা ইউটিলিটি আছে, একটা অ্যাকসেপ্টেবিলিটি আছে, ইনএভিটেবিলিটি আছে টু ফর্ম এ লাইফ, ট্রু লাইফ। আমরা জানি না আজকে অনলাইন টিচিং যদি আমরা স্টার্ট করি, হয়তো 10 বছর পরে উইল ফেস দিস সর্ট অফ প্রবলেম। সেই জন্য to apprehend that situation, we must outline our online teaching system or structure by considering this proposal, that by entertaining the local system of teaching. আমরা একটা পার্টিকুলার সিলেবাস, একটা পার্টিকুলার সিস্টেম টিচিং যদি ইম্পোজ করে দিই, তাহলে এই ভ্যারিয়েশন, দ্য ওয়ার্ল্ড সিনারিওতে যে ভ্যারিয়েশনটা পাই স্পেশালি, দ্যাট উইল বি স্পয়েলড। অ্যান্ড উইল বি কেয়ারফুল, আমাদের সাবধান হতে হবে। আমি অত ঠিক করে বোঝাতে পারলাম না, বাট ইট ইজ ইট নিডস সাম মোর ডিসকাশন হাউ উইল মেনটেন the individual education system in different parts of the world. And if we club all those in our mainstream system, then we can have a very good education system by which the future generation will be benefited, is my suggestion. I hope I am an optimistic one. All the time I feel that what we are doing today, that is betterment for the tomorrow, and we collect some knowledge and experience from our history, from our past, from our ancestor, and I feel we are jumping from this phase to another future phase. So that is the floor that we can consider. This is the history, or this is the ancestral activities, or this is the environmental situation. From this, we learn something, we get some points, and paint our or outline our online teaching systems. Thank you all for your patience hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mukhopadhyay. Our India is all ready to transform a new idea of education. Government of India has already adopted 5+3+3+4 format, where there is a provision to take classes in online mode. Thanks for sharing your views with us. Two questions I would like to ask you after summarizing the questions from the participants. How can the research scholars or students and teaching faculties of different colleges and universities manage their practical-based, lab-oriented or field-based studies through online education? Is it possible? And another one is how can we bridge the face-to-face learning with online education at this very moment of the international educational crisis, taking all precautionary measures? If you share with us your views.
You see, Dr. Janto, the day will come, we will have that devices by which we can handle our program from our home itself. That means online education. But regarding the field part, the field survey or interacting with the people, particularly in my subject, that is geography, where we have to go the remotest part and interact with the people and collecting their perception related with particular problem or any situation. And that is, with this present infrastructure or technology, that is not possible. But with the advent of technology, with the advent of infrastructure, the day will come, as you have mentioned already, my earlier speakers, that if every people, if they will have the internet facilities, then these field-based activities that you can be handled from your lab or from your classroom. But beyond this, I feel that what I wanted to say in my lecture, that some portions should be kept apart. Then if you include the field survey, perception study from in your online teaching, then you are going to spoil a portions in education system. The basic angle of education is that the collect information from different parts and you just formulate in your study or in your research. So with the technological advancements, if we handle this program from your classroom, then that we are just going to block one part of your discussions or your research or your education part. সেই জন্য আমার মনে হয় যে এডুকেশন সিস্টেমের কিছু অংশ যেটাকে আমরা অনলাইনে আনতে চাইবো না, সেই অংশগুলো কিন্তু আমাদের ডিফাইন করতে হবে। সবকিছু তো অনলাইনে হতে পারে না, সেই জন্য কিছু ডিফাইন করতে হবে এবং সেটাকে আমাদের কিন্তু একটা ফোকাস দিতে হবে যে আমরা কিভাবে এটাকে আমরা নিজেদের মধ্যে রাখতে পারি বা এটাকে বাঁচিয়ে রাখতে পারি।
Sure. Sure, sir. Thank you for your valuable speech. Now, thanks to our speakers for their giving their valuable time and brainstorming discussions and reviews in this international symposium. We do believe that their views, suggestions, and discussions and the outcome will surely help us to review imposed online education. Now, I am switching over to Professor Rupendra Kumar Chattopadhyay, President of Bharata Vidya Charcha Kendra, to give his valuable speech and also the valedictory speech and summarize the today's discussion and end the symposium with vote of thanks. Professor Rupendra Kumar Chattopadhyay holds the post of Vivekananda Chair of Social Science, University of Calcutta, and is also the visiting faculty, Department of History, Presidency University, India. Sir, please give your valuable speech. Proceed, sir.
This distressing time of a global pandemic and the concomitant lockdown that it has necessitated, forcing closure of schools, colleges, and universities, has made us realization the importance of online digitalized education. But we must take care to ensure that our realization does not come to an end simply with the end of pandemic, which I am fearful and hopeful would soon get over. It is high time that we understand that online education is not merely an ad hoc pedagogic exercise, but rather a potential alternative to conventional teaching methods that could be and should be fostered as a creative device with classroom education. In India, people do suffer from tremendous prejudices against online and digital modes of education, though I do not deny that many of the arguments against online education in India stand absolutely relevant. But nonetheless, I am highly hopeful that a cohesive approach, both by the government as also the citizens, can definitely go a long way in removing many of these obstacles and ensure a true utilization of the eminence development that we have accomplished in the field of information technology. Given the tremendous technological prosperity that modern world has experienced, online education on a protected basis seems absolutely feasible a proposition, though there are obvious rooms for development. Digitalized library, digital archives, webinars, and symposium and online tutorials bear the potential to propagate education even in normal times with a better commitment by authorities and better cooperation by the masses. It is true that social economic inequalities have been perennial problems maligning the Indian subcontinent past and present. They do indeed pose serious impediments on online pedagogy, while tremendous poverty does prevent a major section of masses from procuring the basic necessities for online education, such as smartphone, laptops, and other digital gadgets. Tremendous administrative and regional backwardness leads to deplorable internet connectivities in certain areas, hindering students from engaging in digital mode. In the light of such disparities, online education often appears improbable and quite justifiable. But even then, these obstacles shall be tackled by the government through providing gadgets to backward sections and installing towers and other improving connectivities in remote areas. Moreover, the state must also increase awareness about the same and influence the students to take up online education rather than to impose on them. On our part, we must cooperate with the authorities and we be open-minded and positive about embracing digital learning as an essential mode of education rather than an emergency one. Online learning and complementation with the conventional classroom, I am hopeful, would surely open up new venues for education. Today's webinar seminar or symposium, I am sure, has been extremely fruitful in the sense that apart from the revealing pros and cons of digital learning, it has thrown light on its international, national, and regional aspects, particularly those on the remote areas. Thus, while the today's very significant talk by Professor Suparna Banerjee, obviously on technology with a touch of dystopia, online education USA during the COVID-19 pandemic. He has tried to give a look on the loopholes and the constraint of online education in USA. Obviously, while he is concluding remarks, under current circumstances, online education is the only safe mode in many areas of USA. It will affect student learning and performance negatively in many cases. It will affect parents K-12 student ability to work. There is no perfect solution of online teaching so far as the his own viewpoint. On the other hand, Shubham Pal took us to national sphere, particularly China in and around, elaborating the perceptions and ramification of online teaching in those nations, thereby indicating a global take on the subject concerned. Mr. Mandal words give us an insight of online learning in the remote Sundarban area, a place that truly suffers from regional backwardness and administrative negligence that will improve as early as possible. Uh, at the end, Professor Maloy Mukhopadhyay, he has tried to give a look on the existing methodological constraint between online and offline education system, and he is looking for universal education system and how one can motivate with the system around which thread of his argument uh, mm, uh, in the context of classroom and online teaching. Uh, though my own perception, if you believe Rabindranath Tagore's view, sometimes Tagore insisted teaching on classroom so that online could be that beyond altogether. I am highly hopeful that pandemic would soon come to an end, but the importance of online learning that it has made us realize would not. I believe that government as also the common people all strive to ensure an all-inclusive nature of digital education and perceive it as a sound alternative to classroom teaching. And the two must operate together even in normal times. So this is my so-called valedictory address. Now I'm switching over to vote of thanks. Obviously, it is a great pleasure for me vote of thanks because today's or think to me enrich academic discussion. Speakers have overlooked. I hope time for their busy schedule with such a wonderful input. The listeners feel the same. We are sincerely overwhelmed by your response, gratitude to the entire arrangement, and obviously full that entitled with obviously by Bharat Helpline here for taking interest on the issue, and really it is an vital and important issue today. And I also express my gratitude to the members of the Bharat Vidya Charcha Kendra who has constantly back up online and offline technicalities. And obviously Umar Shankar Mandal Babu for giving the collaborating mind to organize such beautiful symposium, and obviously fruitful one. And finally, I express my heartiest gratitude to convener and moderator, Dr. Shankar, for coming up with such a relevant team and making all of you for teaching me how I can scoop up with this online because age as well as I'm very much poor so far as the online technique is concerned. So I apologize for the same. And really, finally, I thank all for make it a grand success. Thank you all.
Okay,
And sorry
the
if
symposium,
I failed to mention.
the symposium ends here. So thanks to our speakers, valuable speakers, and thanks to our audience and viewers and participants. Thank you all. Thank you.